Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the 1916 Company, for all of your purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we're discussing a heavyweight piece launched in 2009 in white gold. This is the Richard Mille RM021 Aerodyne white gold. So the watch features an extraordinary movement that includes a large amount of orthorhombic titanium aluminide. You can see it in honeycomb form. It is the core of the base plate of this tourbillon regulator. And of course, this is one of RM's famous durable tourbillons. So we'll get into that a little bit. But first, let's talk about the physical properties externally. It is made of white gold, so it's heftier than a standard RM. If you don't like a watch that feels almost toy-like, this is definitely going to be your Richard Mille. In white gold, it is thinner than it looks at 14.3 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 48 millimeters, and then across the case without the crown, it's 39 millimeters across. So we'll put it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and it fits quite well. Make no mistake, it's got an insistent, prominent presence. But you can see with the curvature of the case, let me turn it upside down so you can really see that, the bottom of the case is well cambered. So it wraps around the edge of your wrist, and even over the top, you can see that the lugs are at the edge of my wrist, but not over, and this is the angle that exaggerates the width of a watch. The true angle down the barrel reveals that the lugs are actually quite a bit inboard. So I believe you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference. My wrist is 16. Taking a look at the strap, obviously a custom piece, and fixed here by screws, so you don't have to worry about it pulling out or the spring bar failing and putting your extraordinarily valuable watch in harm's way. There's also a little bit of ventilation in there, and it's a very flexible and pliant kind of rubber, so extremely comfortable. Ergonomics a big part of the arm experience. Of course, we have the well-known G&F Chatelain leaf spring system. The buckle is primarily made of white gold, and you can see it is the Chatelain system, but parts here in white gold are made by Valgine. There's the Valgine V, one of the major stakeholders in RM. Also the case and sometimes partial clasp manufacturer. You can see the Valgine logo right there. Taking a look at the case here, it's a little bit different than a standard RM, that we have a media blasted dial with a few well-chosen polished facets. Now you can see that there are these wings that are raised up along the shoulders of the case, and the edges of those little wings or shoulders are polished. It's a different kind of look and a little bit more subdued across the top. In profile, you can see that there are hollow columns for the spline screws. You can see them here, that hold the case together. Vertical satination, a little bit of evacuation profile with the lips of the case back and the bezel polished. The crown features a knurled rubber shoulder, and then a little push button that allows you to change the function of the multifunction crown. That's neutral, nothing happens. That's winding, which you can see propels both the torque meter and the power reserve indicator, and then H, appropriately enough, is the hour. Sometimes you will see W on these watches written as R for remontage or winding. Here it seems to be abbreviated per the English equivalent. Now the multifunction crown right here is a interesting mechanism because it's got the feel of a column wheel system. It's very, very crisp, and it's a cool feature, if a little bit unnecessary, but what it does is it helps protect the crown seal so you're not continuously moving it in and out. The watch is 50 meters water resistant. When freshly serviced, that is a surface swimmable 50 meters. Now let's take a look at the loom shot. This is a fairly well loomed dial, but just the fundamentals, the hours and the minutes. Now, the luminescent hour indices outboard are on a little scale that's made of carbon fiber. And then inboard of that, you can see that there's a sapphire under the primary sapphire, and this sapphire rings the dial on both sides. It's the basis on which the numerals are printed, as well as the scales for the torque meter and the power reserve. Now, down at the base, you can see there is a fascinating sprung titanium bridge for the tourbillon. It is a 1-minute tourbillon. It is free sprung. It features an overcoil hairspring for concentric breathing and consistent timekeeping in every position. And it has a 3 Hz beat rate, the free sprung architecture along with the shock protection system, making this a very durable and practical tourbillon. At center, you can see the motion works, the minute wheel pinion, and then the hour wheel. Up at the top, You could see the barrel cover underneath, along with another shock protection system made of these little cantilever springs. And then you can see there's this elaborate honeycomb structure. Now we'll go to the back. This is the orthorhombic titanium aluminide, and you can see it's used to form the base plate of the watch, parts of which also include a fiber core. Now on the reverse, you can see this is caliber RM021. This is not simply an adapted Vaucher movement. Remember I said this movement has a crown that feels a little bit like a column wheel? Well, the action is quite literally performed by what's effectively a flattened column wheel, the star and spring indexing system. You can see we have satination, we have beveling, we have media blast, we have polishing. It is extravagantly and extensively hand decorated. 27 pivot jewels, and you can see one of them is a golden chaton fixed by screws, just as you'd find on a grand old pocket watch. And this is no expense spared, Richard Mille. This is where that APRP, Audemars Renault Papi, know-how really comes into play, because that is how these movements are going to be engineered and made for RM. You can see there are more golden chaton featuring pivot jewels, so even as this watch is looking towards the future, there are nods to the past. Now, it is a 70-hour power reserve, so fairly robust, and these two gauges, one of them's power reserve, which is self-evident, the other is torque. Torque is important because even as indicated power reserve remains relatively static over time, you will find that torque from the mainspring barrel diminishes, and that's usually a proxy for the health of the watch and how close it is to requiring a service. So you can see right there, close to pegged. That means we are looking at quite a bit of mainspring torque. And in fact, this watch was retailed in 2023, so although a 2009 launch, it is still a very fresh timepiece. And you can see quite a bit of the decoration of the tourbillon, which includes, unusually, a media-blasted tourbillon carriage. This watch is simply full of nuance. And if you love it, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.